And they go, man, I really like the way Joe Rogan talks about things.
I did a video once called How to Do a Podcast Like Joe Rogan. Okay, step one, in 1988, start your comedy career.
Just like Joe Rogan. All I need to do is put the content out, and I'll get 100 million views.
Get to it fast. Right here on the Anycast. Make it strong, make it last. Right here on the Anycast.
Right? Like that's part of the discoverability challenge is like, nor should we. Those things aren't meritocracies. Those things are simply based on, did you get the right thing at the right time? Right? There's 10,000 ways Joe Rogan would end up having 500 subscribers still, but he didn't. Right? And abundance mindset is, so that means I can too, as opposed to well, that says there's something wrong with discoverability if I also don't have, 20
Right,
million
exactly.
people watching.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not discoverability's problem, it's reality's problem.
Yeah.
And if you have a problem with reality,
Italian restaurants, just because you have a really good Italian restaurant doesn't mean you're going to be on Pasta Portland.
Exactly.
Right.
And so, it's all about expectations, but it's expectations on both sides. Does it make the phone ring? That's the only question you'd ask about the show.
Right.
Does it associate you with the people you want to be associated with? That's the only thing you need to ask about the show. Not, is it getting some of them Joe Rogan numbers?
Right.
Because the thing that's interesting about podcasters is the ones that people stick with, people come for the content, they stay for the voice. People came to Rogan because they wanted to hear from person X, and then they go, man, I really like the way Joe Rogan talks about things.
Well, the thing is, I know that I'm just as good as Joe Rogan, so that as long as I'm not selling anything, then it'll take off.
Exactly.
You're right. Nobody should go into podcasting or even content creation in general as a part of the marketing arm of your business with the hope of becoming a Joe Rogan or something like that, right? There's certainly, you can create content for entertaining purposes. And if you're going to be a content creator, then have those aspirations. Want to be Mr. Beast in your space. But if you're a business, no, forget about it. That's not what you're doing. You're not trying to create entertaining content, or at least you should not be. Instead, you should be thinking about talking to your target audience as closely and authentically as you can, and leading them into learning more about your business and more about you personally, and becoming potentially a prospect and a customer down the road. And when you have that mindset, now think about whether or not it would be beneficial to you if I put you in a room full of 200 prospects and you got to talk to them for 30 minutes about what you do and how you do it, and show them how you help somebody that looks just like them achieve success in their industry, which is their industry, right? And you were along and you were that helpful guide in their journey to success. Now that suddenly feels a lot different, to your point, right? Because if just a couple of those people raise their hands and say, gosh, Mike, I'd like to learn more. Maybe, can I get a demo of that? Or, can we get on a discovery call? That's awesome.
Yeah.
Which is why we do the way that we do the podcast from the beginning, which is to talk to our prospects.
And I think that's a hard thing too, right? When you start to release something, if you're not crystal clear on who your audience is, and that means like the 7 people that you actually want to listen to it, like you're not just going to put it out and produce it independently, and next thing you're Joe Rogan and people are paying you. No, it's that's probably not dissimilar actually to the music industry curve, right? Which is not every band is going to get signed to a major label deal, and not every band is going to get major I guess what used to be radio airplay, now Spotify play. But that doesn't mean that you can't locate your core group of fans who are really going to love what you do. I think like this show goes on YouTube, not that I particularly expect anybody to consume it over video more than audio, but the reason is because you get maybe some discoverability. You expect that promotion, lazy promotion might be the way to think about it, right? I'll just put it up and it'll find me an audience. How amazing.
People are going to find it. It'll spread itself.
Yes, that's just like Diary of a CEO or just like Joe Rogan. All I need to do is put the content out, and I'll get 100 million views because the algorithm.
So it's clearly a very different world, and I think one of the things that means is that mass market isn't necessarily where you will win. So yes, Joe Rogan is mass market. Of course he is. Call Her Daddy is mass market. Crime Junkie is mass market. But where you really win is niche, looking at a specific audience who you can super serve, who you can really show you're the best out of it. It's much easier to market yourself to a specific audience. Maybe you're marketing yourself to people who like knitting while sitting in a tree. You could be the number one.
How did you know?
Podcast for
How did you know about my new show?
But you know what I mean. It's really easy. It's much easier to focus on niche than it is to launch another Joe Rogan experience, which is why there isn't another Joe Rogan experience, out there. So I think, really part of the trick is really understanding who your niche is and focusing at that. Remember that all podcast consumption is habit. You will not start a habit in just 4 episodes. So you need to be going for, Joe Rogan went for 10 years before he became a big show. And Stephen Bartlett, much the same sort of thing, as well.
Got to give me one payoff. It's like cliffhanger, 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 cliffhanger.
I haven't listened to a full Diary of a CEO. I haven't listened to a full Joe Rogan. So I'm
the trailer is just like, you're never going to believe that he said, and then he, but then.
I remember once I was in Nashville going to an event, and I was talking to this guy as we walked to the event, and he said, "Oh, I just do it Rogan style." And I'm like, "What's that?" And he goes, "Oh, we just set up a couple mics, me and my friends, and we just, talk about whatever we want to talk about." And I'm like, "Yeah, but the problem is, step one of that is be Joe Rogan, and step number 2 is all of his friends are, I don't know, Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, Tom Segura, like all these guys are other, celebrities." That, because the one day I was listening, he was talking to Adam Sandler, and I was like, I'm not really laughing at this. I'm like, why am I listening to this conversation? I'm like, oh, that's right, they're celebrities.
Yeah.
And celebrities kind of get a pass on being boring because we kind of want to get a glimpse behind the scene. But it's Rogan and Sandler just talking about, do you remember the Chuckle Hut out in Poughkeepsie? And like, oh man, who ran that thing? Dan. I'm like, I don't care about the Chuckle Hut in Poughkeepsie. Yeah, I got a lot of negative comments. I did a video once called How to Do a Podcast Like Joe Rogan. And it was like, okay, step 1 in 1988, start your comedy career. And then there's, Fear Factor.
Oh, yeah, host a show on national television.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, that's all you have to do.
And he was wasn't he on, he was on radio?
He was News Radio.
News Radio, yeah.
He was on Fear Factor. He, for a while, hosted The Man Show when Adam Carolla and Jimmy Kimmel left. He was on that for a while. So, that's all. That's all he did.
It's like running for president in the Donald Trump style. Right? It's like all you have to do is be a real estate billionaire and a personality and sell a few million books and be on NBC. And then you can just go up and say what you want. And that's what people will gravitate to. I feel like if you're starting a podcast, you probably are trying to give to get a little bit. You want to grow your business. You want to grow your following. You're not necessarily scratching that itch, to use that term again, that like a musician might be like, I just want to get on stage and play music. Nobody who has a podcast is like, I just want to get in front of a microphone. There's usually an agenda of some kind of like they see it as a vehicle to go somewhere. And for all the new podcasters I talk to, for the ignorance is bliss crowd, it's, I'm going to be Joe Rogan, right? Like I'm going to have a podcast and then I'm going to have millions of followers and, good things will come. And maybe that was what it was like to be in a band in the early 70s when it was like, we're going to get discovered and then we're going to have a big career. And but reality at some point kicks in if you're playing a local, if you start to play local gigs so that you can play an arena, you can't. That ignorance is bliss thing goes away real quick.
It doesn't work. Although I was at I think it was at South by Southwest. It was a small little room full of people watching. Nick Lowe was speaking for some reason. It was a session. Like he was supposed to be there, and somebody asked him, like, well, what made you decide to do this? He's like, well, I grew up in Liverpool and it just made sense. It was obvious that, being in a world famous band was one of the jobs that you could pick for yourself. Like, well, because he's like, we had the Beatles. We didn't realize that this was, as unique as it was, to use my term.
Doctor, lawyer, or world famous musician.
Right. It was just like, well, that I can do that. I'll write songs and I'll do that.
So you got to be very creative. I think it is true that you need to know your audience. So the more general a show is, the more difficult it is to promote it, because they're everywhere, right? I mean, are you going to buy Super Bowl ads? Well, good. I hope you have a big budget. But that's why at this point, the rich get richer. That's why the Joe Rogans and the Call Her Daddies and the Smartless of the world, they are basically general interest. I mean, okay, Joe Rogan's to bros, but that's a pretty big group. So all the people wear their hats backward. Oh, sorry, man. So just teasing you.
No comment.
But it's still a very big general audience. They have enough revenue that they can keep that marketing machine going. But they're also doing other things like getting in the news, getting big name interviews, and that stuff the little guys probably can't do either. So yeah, I think if you're just starting out and you don't have that name and you don't have that revenue, you're going to have to do some guerrilla marketing, and it's going to help a lot if you know exactly who your audience is.
This is different, another round, so much more to talk about. Gonna aim to satisfy with help from CashFly. Get to it fast. Right here on the Anycast. Make it strong, make it last. Right here on the Anycast. The Anycast podcast, brought to you by CashFly.